Okay, good morning, people. It is Monday, February, let me sure I get it right, 18th, 2019. Yeah, that's the right date. Uh, Good morning. I had an interesting night's sleep. I had rest. My father sent me one dream that, stuck out in particular that I recall. He might have sent some others, but to be honest with you, it was just this one dream, and it was quite vivid. And in the dream, I was in a place, shared living, and the landlord was being approached by somebody I knew who basically, for lack of a better way to put it, she thinks everything in life is about her. And she approached the landlord to ask for something. And the landlord was quite hurt with her and was like, "What?" And she said, I wanted to know if, I could have somebody stay over because the rule was there are no uninvited guests in this house. His house. Now, this guy here has a similar setup in the sense that, you rent a space and it's for you. You don't have any visitors. You don't have any overnight guests. If they ain't paying, they ain't in here. Now, he said, okay, but see, she wanted not one, she wanted two people to be able to stay over. She had two places, set aside where, they could sleep. So, he said, okay. And they went ahead and they were going to stay over in a house that was already full. And then in a room, an upper room, this guy was going off. He pulled out a gun and he shot through the window. And he shot through the door. And the people were afraid. And I approached the guy and I said, "Dude, why you do that?" He said, "Ain't nobody paying rent up in here." And I woke up. My dream has meaning to me. For my father was quite clear. This world in which we live in, where everybody is paying some form of payment just to survive, is not being paid to him. We pay it amongst ourselves. To the point that we control the purse string. Be you a landlord, or property owner, or whatever. You go to the polls for a reason. You pass laws for a reason. You try and get tax reform for a reason. And it's always about a dollar. The very same dollar that you consider a blessing that comes from him, that you don't have to share necessarily the same. And you make peace with that. Even as you still steady debating about who is not paying their fair share. As they flaunt it in your face as to how good they have it. And you don't. And then you who don't like to counsel others who don't as to why that's acceptable behavior. To the point you even quote scripture at them. Let me tell you something, people. I'm my father's son. Obviously, some of you might have a clue as to that might be a very real reality, and some of you don't know what to think. But see, that's not my problem. That would be your problem. That would be your issue. I don't play games, especially when I'm talking about God, because I told him straight up I could not speak for him because I was not him. He said, you will speak for me because you did it before and you will do it again. And what I tell you will come to pass. If he tells me to share it, it comes to pass. Now, when will it come to pass? That's for him to determine when he wants to play that card. He just wants me to put the message out there because, see, y'all like people who can see and peer into the ethers and tell you what's going down because you think you can utilize that information for personal gain and profit. Well, let me tell you something about personal gain and profit. It comes in all manner of flavors. And sometimes it's not a flavor to your liking because of something else that you say you secretly are seeking or have already achieved when you have not. You will not tell me what that Bible says in defense stance with me as to what I might share with you. If you don't want to have the conversation, no problem. We won't have the conversation. But one thing I do know is that there are certain people who will quote scripture to me as if I have never read the Bible, much less read certain passages the same as them, but not interpreted the same as them. Because see, like with any book or a movie or one's own story, it is subject to interpretation. Somebody may or may not get where you're coming from, and that's fine. But as Christ did teach, and this is in the Bible too, and you might want to hold on to this as a really serious sticking point. You share the word, and that if it is not received, you leave with what you have and take nothing of theirs with you. Because the word of God is for everyone, but it's not actually accepted by everyone the same. If you don't get that, that is a personal feeling on your part. It has nothing to do with the other person not understanding where you're coming from. They just don't want to hear it. Because, see, they have their own take, too. You're talking about what has worked in your life versus what should work in theirs, as if you ever pinned their tail. Pin the tail on the donkey much? This is a game to you, to be meddlesome in somebody else's affairs. I prefer not to be. Now, I'll offer a word of caution, but at the same time, at certain points in time, I get to a point where I don't want to say anything. And I say to my father all the time, I don't want to speak on that. And he says, I know, but I need you to. And he knows I'll do anything for him. When I said, I'm not here for everybody, I'm here for what's mine. First and foremost, what's mine is me. I'm here for myself. If you looked at that posting that I reshared from 7 years ago, that was as much about me as it was about any of you. Now, those of you who call yourself studied and approved, true scholars of Christ's teachings, you will understand more about what was in that post than anybody else. And you will glean from it what you can and try and apply it. But if you choose not to, that's fine. See, the teachings of Christ are for everyone, but not all of them study them the same, and not all of them adhere to them the same. if you understood anything about the story of Christ, who was a Jew, and he broke away from Judaism to start another church, the Christian faith, which actually did cobblestone together commonalities from a number of religions. This is all theory and conjecture, but it is still very much true. Christ did live in various lands, and he did study with various people, and he saw the common ground, not unlike my own life. This time around, I have studied other world cultures and more, and it is a trip. The similarities versus the differences. Now, there is a common belief system that there is more good in this world than not. I beg to differ. We choose to see that there is more good in this world than not. But at the same time, if that's the case, where's the goodness? If you only see what's good in this world because somebody is going through something that they're now broadcasting people come to aid with, but they're only doing that in that one place, and you know that there are other places where people are going through it. You might be over there cleaning up, helping to clean up Puerto Rico, or putting on benefit concerts for them, just like you were doing in Thousand Oaks, just like you were doing in Houston, all that kind of stuff. But you were also in those various places talking about you need to build a wall, and at the same time putting people's kids and them in cages and saying that's acceptable. Treating them as criminals when they were seeking asylum, when you are supposed to have a law on the books that you do welcome asylum seekers. But you're trying to change that, and you can't change it fast enough, so you have to crowd these people. And rather than look bad in your own country, now you're willing to secretly pay Mexico to house those people. And Mexico has their own problems and their own people saying, we can't house these people because we can't make it either. And you want to sit there and tell me there's more good in this world than not? You stick your head in the sand much? You who take vacations from social media and the news because it's too overwhelming? Then you say, why would you look at that shit? Maybe because I was predestined to. The second coming. Something that you do believe is going to take place at some point in time, but you don't believe it's taking place now. What are the stages of grief, people? Isn't one of them denial? Then you barter, and then you come to accept. I mean, it's several stages. Where are you at in the process? You're looking for an instantaneous way out. You're not going to get it. You want to ascend. Well, you have to understand first off what ascension means to you. See, for some people, ascension just means the end, death. You go up into the ethers or whatnot in spirit. You don't have to worry about earthly trials or anything like that anymore. If that's what you want, if you want to be disembodied, fine. It's on the table. That's what you plan for. See, a lot of people see life as a game to be beat. I did post some videos called Ready Player One because, my father wanted me to put it out there like a game that you like to play. But you do realize you're playing against him, the house. And there is an expression that the house always wins. You can't beat a system that is designed by him, where he knows every move you make, even before you've made it. Because while you sitting there trying to come up with a strategy, he already knows what your strategy is, and he can best you. He can lead you down a pathway of self-destruction, just like that. Now, how do I know? Perhaps because he showed me how he operates. I can't do that. But he was capable of showing me how it works, to the point where I said, I don't know who I am in this situation anymore, but he always knows who he is. See, this is what I'm going to tell you, any of you who think that you're going to sit there and school me on what you know. It ain't what I know. I don't care about your life. That's your life. You have to live it. I have to live mine. If I show you any kind of interest, it's only because I choose to. I am not obligated to serve you. I'm not obligated to do anything for you. The second coming was as much about Christ being retired from your life so that you could go it alone and see exactly how much you have learned and mastered as it was about anything else. If you want to sit there and say that you are Christian and you subscribe to a church where those who shepherd you rape and malign your progeny, much less you, where they lie incessantly and are constantly asking you forgiveness and you offer it up and you think that makes you Christian? No, that makes you a fool. Where you have to go to church and hope somebody else packs a gun so that the blood is on their hand if blood is spilled. Better them than you. That doesn't make you a Christian. That makes you a fool. Because you're associating with the wrong people. Just as they are, you have accepted them. And just as you are, you're saying to God, he must accept that of you too. His laws, his rules, his 10 commandments, none of them apply to you because you're saved by the blood. Blood that never should have been spilt to begin with. You say you know that Bible so well. You say you understand the stories so well. You say a lot of shit. And everything that you have said, you will be tested on. Everything that comes out of your mouth, you will be tested on. Every bit of advice you give to another, you will be tested on. It will either break you or it will remake you. You will not tell me to go get a job, nigga. Because don't think I haven't tried. And don't think that there were not roadblocks thrown my way, even to the point where you have a problem with me as a person. And might not even be inclined to want to hire the likes of me. You think they ain't scouring social media, employers, and more? Lester Holt talked to some kids in yesterday's broadcast. They had alluded to it last week, that he was going to be doing it. He was at some conference with your kids on social media. He's trying to find out how much of that news that they actually follow or share amongst each other do they think is fake versus real. And of course, you know, the sampling there, some of the kids, we're trying to reason through a thought process to validate whether or not it was factual or not. But they, at the same time, they all admitted that they have shared something that was not true. And when they set fire to those railroad tracks in Chicago, just like a week or so ago, to keep them from freezing over, that was in the news. That was a real news story. And they asked those kids, was that fake news or not? And only one boy raised his hand and said it was true. The rest of them did not know. That tells you a lot right there. You're not as plugged in, tapped in, turned on as you think. My Father is going to give you what you ask for. Your opportunity to ascend. You say you're ready to go because you're all about love and light. You know how to peacefully coexist. I suppose, in and amongst yourselves, or you've made peace with yourself. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Part of my problem is I had to make peace with the fact that I had to allow you, your space, to have peace. It means I can't do anything for you. I have to step back. Now, does that mean I'm going to stop speaking? No. You'll allow it. But he tells us the lessons. He tells us what's going to come through. And, at the same time, if you are privy to hear it or not, many of you already are doing what I already know is going to be problematic. You're not sharing the word. You're not sharing anything that I'm talking about because you don't believe it. You never thought that you would have to go through this. You really thought that you had already skated and made your way through, and that your life, difficult as it may be, or not, is what it's really all about. You really think it's about the fact that you didn't help me with my rent. No. It wasn't about that. In the days of old, when Christ first came, people welcomed people into their home. If you were traveling on the road, there were innkeepers who charged. The Good Samaritan story was all about that. The man was robbed, beat up, left on the side of the road. Two passed him by, religious people and whatnot, with the Good Samaritan. And don't think the Samaritans were not religious people. They just were of a different belief system, faith. Helped the man. Took him to an inn. Paid for his room. And for the innkeeper to attend to his needs. And said, I'm giving you this money. And when I come back this way, I will check in. And if there's anything more that is owed, I will pay that too. See, in those days, people were of their word. There was no credit check. He trusted the innkeeper trusted him. And the man was attended to. In this day and age, you have a shitload of paperwork to go through. And there is a credit check. And you miss one payment. And then there's a problem. But yet the world is evolving. And the world is a better place. Now, you want to talk about somebody living in a better time? Well, with examples like that, you could say, yeah, those are better times. But not now, not necessarily. There were still wars and slavery, sex trafficking, abuse of power, classism, racism, sexism. You can dress it however you want, but you're still struggling with many of the same issues that in the days of old. And there's far more of you now going through the problem, trying to figure it out. Your ideals are shot down oftentimes before you even open your mouth good. And you want somebody to sit there and applaud you and give you a pat on the back. You want me to sit here and tell you, because you know certain sections of the Bible, not necessarily that you read yourself or come to understand in and of yourself, but pretty much it's a lot of the same stuff that is parroted from a pulpit. And I would know, because I've sat in enough churches to know what ministers sound alike and which ones don't, particularly if they go to the same seminaries or religious schools of thought. Christ founded a church. He was the original author and architect, as he was guided to do so by his Father. When my father woke me up, he told me straight up, this is not about you starting another church. It's not another movement, people. This is me tidying up loose ends and finishing up a story, as Archangel Azrael told me. Something when I was asleep thought had to do with a book I was working on that was supposed to inspire the world. And it's like, no, you have another book that you have yet to finish writing, much less living. And it has to do with a shitload of people who are self-identified as one of your own, who mistreat those who are supposed to be one of their own, and think that you are okay with it all, and that anything that you taught is now a moot point and was subject for debate. Really? So you didn't start the movement. You just bought into it. And now, since you've adopted it as your own, you say, oh, okay. That's how I see it. And if you don't like what somebody else is doing, then you just go out and start your own. That's not a tree, people. That's poison ivy. That's a bush. That's a weed. That's something that needs to be discarded. A promise made will not be fulfilled just because you sit there and get baptized, take an oath that you no more follow than you take, or any oath that you take when you are sworn into office on whatever religious book you believe in. Or if you sit in a jury box and hold your hand up and take an oath that you're going to fairly weigh the evidence and attendance. As if I've never sat on a jury and watched people go to sleep, or at the same time in the deliberation room say, tell me how you want me to vote, and I'll vote anyway, because I just want to get out of here. And this is you, good and kind people, thinking that I have not done any kind of assessment of self, much less what I bore witness to with you in my 57 years of living this life, much less any other. You believe in reincarnation. You have testimony that supports it, but not all of you do. You believe in science. You have testimony that supports it, but not all of you do. You believe in spirit, but not all do. All do. You believe in angels, but not all do. You believe in God, and not all do. Some of you believe there is a devil, and some of you don't. Now, That is truly a definition of a collective consciousness. And the camps that you have relegated yourself to, you did it to. You did it to yourself. You didn't do it because somebody else made you. You chose to do that. There is truth in the expression. What you have done to me, you have done to yourself. It will hurt your head trying to figure it out. But perhaps you need a bit of a headache. And you got one coming. It's already underway. I told you I had a major headache last night. Major. Telling me that man was coming back. And he did. He was not happy. He just came back for the money that I didn't have. I was already having a conversation with somebody. They were, basically telling me how they felt. Their experience and whatnot, and how God provides and blah 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 this and blah blah. And that's true. He does. He provides. But to what level? And what's going to happen when he doesn't provide? I ain't making this shit up. He told me straight up. He gonna let y'all go it alone. Because this world, he set up with everything you need. Your government, for all the debt that they say they have, they also say they have money. Your money. With a stroke of a pen, you got an insane president who can reallocate funds from what you say you need, like for defense and whatnot. And the people in defense say, no, you can't do that. And then you want your Congress people, your state leaders and more to mount a challenge in court. Your court. These are the games you play. You see it. You talk about it. And you act like I don't see it. And because I talk about it, matter of factly, what? I'm supposed to be okay with that? As you sit there and try and spend another argument to tell me what I need to be doing? You first. And I know you're struggling. A lot of people are struggling. I knew it was coming before. Because he went over it with me. I told you. He already tried y'all. He presented the case to me first. I didn't want him to do it. I played devil's advocate. See how much clout I have? It's underway, but I couldn't stop it. I had to come around. Because I told him straight up, I can't fight against you. I can't stand against you. You're a God. I'm not. I may be your son. But what am I to do? He said, nothing right now. You will speak when I ask you to. But you're retired. I'll take care of you. You told him, straight up, by your indifference, that that's what you want. You want proof. Okay. He's going to give it to you. He's already said as much. He's done firing warning shots. That's what that dream symbolized. The fact that the bullet went through a window, then went through a wall. I mean, that happens in real life anyway. But those bullets were up above. People were down below. He ain't firing any more warning shots. He's going to bring this shit through in your lives. And you're going to have to try and shift through all the minutia. I'll help you as best I can as he allows me to, but I'm not really tripping one way or another. In the Bible, Moses was considered the deliverer of the Israelites. It was a long time coming, the process for his preparation and whatnot. He was considered, a treasured member of the house of Pharaoh and more, until they discovered that he was actually Hebrew. And he was supposedly this so-called deliverer. And they exiled him. They didn't kill him. They exiled him. That was the story. And when God was ready for him, and ready to deliver the Israelites out of bondage, he did. He sent Moses back. And he gave Moses certain gifts, powers, and demonstration that he did speak for God, which was God. There was no name for him back then. They only referred to him as the great I am. Yeah, it was a Hebrew word for it, but basically that's what it translated into, but that's not his name. So Moses went back to the people and started doing various things before Pharaoh. And Pharaoh discounted it in the beginning. He said, that's a cheap magician's trick. And dismissed Moses. And just fuck with the Israelites more because he could. Until it started getting more and more intense. But each time, Pharaoh's own people cried out and said, let him go. We can't deal with this shit. God would harden Pharaoh's heart. Now you might wonder, how exactly does he do that? Well, that's for him to know and you to figure out. Because God had a point to make. Up until the point that out of Pharaoh's own mouth, that he was planning to slay, as his father had done, the firstborn of Israel. God said, no, I will deliver the angel of death unto you and kill your firstborn. And he did. Heir to the throne. Pharaoh's only son. That was enough for that man, broken, to say, get out of here. Take your people, whatever spoils you can come up with, and go. And they did. They were making their way to the so-called promised land. But even after they left, once more, God hardened Pharaoh's heart. And he amassed his chariot to pursue them, to slay and re-enslave. But see, that was part of the story too. In pursuit, they pursued the Israelites. They were camped at the sea, the Red Sea. The Red Sea. Moses stretched out the staff. Yes, Pharaoh's army, or his chariot, was basically blocked by a pillar of fire. And the sea opened. And the Israelites went down into it. Now, science is still trying to figure out if that really happened or not. I've seen documentaries about it. I really don't care. I've seen reenactments of it. I really don't care. Did it happen? Yeah, it happened. And I don't need you to tell me that it didn't. Because you don't know how the pyramids were built, but they're there. That happened. So just because you don't know how something was done doesn't mean that it was not done. It just means you don't know how it was done. The Israelites escaped. Pharaoh's chariot was drowned. There was no more pursuit. His army was decimated. Now, you would think that would have been the end of the story as far as the Israelites were concerned, because, you know, they had witnessed all these miracles. They had been saved by the hand of God, their God. But they weren't satisfied. They were straight up dicks. While Moses was on the mountain for 40 days getting the 10 Commandments, they lost their way. They conspired to go back to Egypt. They built a golden calf, had Aaron fashion it because he knew the artwork of the temple, because there was food in Egypt and their way was hard and treacherous. They didn't know what hard or treacherous was going to be until they lost their way. And Moses shattered those commandments and had to go back on that mountain and write it with his own hand, as if he had a right to sit there and tell them what they weren't fit to receive in terms of the word of God in a fit of anger. That didn't keep him out of the promised land. But it did exile a shitload of Israelites to the point that generation died off because they were never going to see it, because they had angered their God. Now you think you're the only one capable of anger. You have no idea what you have done, people. You want to think this is simply about the fact that you didn't help me or pay my rent? You have no idea what you have done, people. You are scurrying into the heavens, into God's own mind, what you call the Akashic records, trying to find out his secrets. You have no idea what you have done, people. You think this is a game for you to go out there and call yourself a child of God and be as disobedient as you want and say this is playtime when you commit murder, thievery, and more? You have no idea what you've done, people. And if you think it's as simple as you just forgiving somebody for having committed the crime, and you have done nothing to eradicate it, then you really know that you have not done a blessed thing. I say you enjoy the lessons now coming, for I have seen it all. It has come through. It was a nightmare. I tossed and turned and I cried out more times than not, Father, help me. I can't stomach this. But now you will. So you can hate me if you want to. You already been doing that anyway. Many have sullied my name to the fact that you say you're a Christian and they cringe. That's your doing. It had nothing to do with me. You enjoy your time. Capiche?